Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mitohackers. Mitohackers was created to give people a place that's difficult to find anywhere else, a community focused on discussions about mitochondrial health, where we can share research and ideas, ask questions, and bring together people looking at these subjects from very different angles. And today's conversation is a really good example of that. We're going to talk about skin longevity, which is an interesting term because most conversations about skin aging begin with what we can see: wrinkles, dryness, pigmentation, loss of firmness, and all the other little reminders our mirrors so kindly provide us every morning. But the more interesting question is, what's actually happening inside the skin as it ages? Our guest today, Zita Desmet, a Belgian entrepreneur based in Dubai, whose work sits at the intersection of skin health and longevity. Her experience spans skincare distribution, longevity-focused innovation, and creating science-based conversations that connect the two. What I particularly like about today's topic is that we're not going to look at skin simply as something we put products on. Skin is living tissue. Its cells need energy, respond to stress, repair themselves, communicate with one another, and change as we age. Zita, thank you very much for joining us and for leading this conversation. When you use the term skin longevity, what do you actually mean?
Thank you, first of all, for the beautiful introduction, and thank you, everyone, for joining this conversation. Let me guide you through what I mean, what skin longevity means to me. So let's just start and go with there. So by the end of this webinar, you're going to understand more about skin functions, the drivers about skin, what makes our skin age, how to recognize inflammation in skin, and ways we could use to recharge our mitochondria in our skin. And I thought it would be a great idea to put visual grapes here on this presentation too, to show as well how actually our skin cells should look. They should look full, have a great color, and a great way of representation. And this is how our skin cells should look as well on the inside. So whenever you see a raisin or a grape, it's on our way to choose which one we want to be. So today the conversation will be a little bit about this too. First of all, and we'll finish with your question, Arthur, but let's just start to go on the road. First of all, to give you more information, what skin is. Skin is, first of all, our largest organ of our body. And it has two main big categories in functions. One is either it's defending us against free radicals, oxidative stress, pollution, UV light, hormones, and medication. It's our only organ that is attached to the external world, and all of our organs are obviously protected. So it's the only organ that actually is always in touch with the outside. So defending is a very important part. However, renewing too. So renewing is where we can clear out the damage, where we can restore and keeping our cells turnover healthy and optimal. However, here's already the struggle where the whole conversation starts when it comes to skin longevity. A lot of people, their skin is always in a state of defense. But if our skin is in a state of defense, how are we going to renew? How can we go for a skin cell that looks like a raisin back to a grape? And this is where the conversation will happen. So first of all, to talk a little bit more about cellular turnover and what our skin cells actually do, a healthy skin cell, so from the moment a skin cell develops until it brushes off when you washed yourself or when you wiped yourself with your towel and you saw your skin going, should be 28 days. That should be a healthy, optimal cellular turnover. However, with aging, with a lot of external factors, that even sometimes stretches up to 45 and 60 days. And this is already where we should have starting the conversation. People that want to invest in their skin health by using serums, by using creams, should know as well, hey, where is my skin cell turnover right now? Is it longer or is it shorter? Shorter is conditioned to certain skin diseases, what we might discuss as well. But so what happens in our basal layer? First of all, new keratinocytes are produced, and that happens in the epidermis. So our skin has three layers: a fat layer, dermis, and epidermis. So, and the keratinocytes are produced in the top layer, the epidermis. Then they migrate upwards and they actually start to change in form. So they start as a nice full cobblestone or brick, as it say, with a cell, with a living cell still, and then it actually starts to slowing to die, and it becomes smaller and smaller. So it in step 3 it differentiates. Cells are starting to flatten, and its structural protein forms the skin barrier. To then step 4, that it goes to desquamatation, where actually mature cells shed and the cycle starts over again. These mature cells are very important too. So not only cells should be young and renewal, we still need the old cells, because the old cells at the top protect us from harm and danger. But it should be in a nice equal amount, obviously. So, and like I said as well, when we age, our cell turnover starts to slow down. So this is already the first very important pillar of skin aging and skin longevity, that we need to fasten the cellular turnover or enhance the cellular turnover. So what happens at cellular stage? Like I mentioned before, there's a turnover that slows down. However, as well, we get a buildup of oxidative stress. So while lifestyle is a huge important part when it comes to how we look, how our skin translates, we can definitely tell when someone would have a bad lifestyle or compared to someone that took care of their skin. So obviously oxidative stress starts to accumulate. And then in step 3 as well, mitochondrial output declines because of aging. And due to aging, we lose the ability of our mitochondrial function. And with that, and all of this, obviously our cell-to-cell communication weakens too. So our cells have a harder time to say that it's missing hydration, that the turnover needs to fasten or stay optimal. So there's a lot of communication that disrupts. And then as well, the extracellular matrix, well, I will explain a little bit later, doesn't rebuild as quality as well, as quality and beautiful as well. Like I mentioned before, our skin exists out of multiple layers. I'm actually going to talk about the 2 most important parts when it comes to skin. And that's first of all the epidermis. The epidermis is the top layer. And in the outer layer, what we really see and what really happens at the skin aging is that we have a microbiome imbalance. So on our skin, we have a flora, good and not so good bacteria, and we need a healthy flora. And obviously, if the quality of our skin isn't as good, that the microbiome starts to drop. Obviously, reduced cell renewal, but with this as well, and this is where the most important part of the epidermis is protecting you from any harm. However, that barrier starts to work less and less. So there's more chances of bacteria, viruses, or chemical ingredients or other parts to enter our body that should not go in, first of all. So, and this means as well that your immune system get heightened and in an imbalance. And obviously as well, and this is where we're going to talk as well a little bit more about senescent cells, the keratinocyte senescence happens here too. The dermal layer is as well a very important part, and this is where wrinkles start to form and exist. And that's the dermal layer. The dermal layer, a very important part in there is the extracellular matrix, which exists out of collagen, elastin, hyaluronic acid, and fibroblasts. It has, and then as well, what ages as well in our dermal layers are the senescent cells. So obviously, lifestyle drivers, UV exposure, hormonal change, chronic stress, and smoking really do have a huge impact on these two categories, on our dermal layers and our epidermis layer. As well, myoaging, so skin or muscle tissue, bone density, fat tissue, everything ages and the structure changes of our face when we age. Our extracellular matrix, where I spoke a little bit more, so in our dermal layer, and this is where the volume loss comes. Collagen is actually our structure. It's the mattress or the density of our skin, and roughly 80% of the dermis is built of collagen. We lose from the age of 30, we lose yearly more than 1%. Ladies that hit menopause even drop drastically with 25%. And this is mainly related as well with the hormonal imbalance and the change in estrogen. So this is as well where, for example, aging or skin aging is more attached with, or that ladies have more prone or are more aware about it as they see significant more change in their skin, and their skin is thinner than a masculine skin. So genetically, there's way less advantages for women when it comes to skin aging. Elastin makes that you can take your skin up, that it can stretch, that it can loose again. And as well, we want to keep that in touch. We want to keep that intact. Hyaluronic acid is a very important part for hydration, but as well how cells will communicate with each other. So hydration is a very important part when it comes to inflammation. When we don't have enough hydration in our layers, in our dermal layers, our skin cells cannot communicate as much as they should. And then there's glycation. You've maybe heard of this term already, but this term is actually attached to number 1, to your collagen, as glycation is a form of is sugar actually attaching it to your collagen strings. So a high insulin diet or eating a lot of sugar makes actually this sugar proteins attaches to our collagen, which means that they break and get more and faster wrinkles. So really how we eat and how our quality of our life depends in how we will age and look. So this is as well very important. So this is what happens in the extracellular matrix, but what is as well very important, and we had this in the last webinars as well, about senescent cells. Senescent cells or zombie cells are an important part in skin longevity. So senescent cells, what is it? It's cells that don't turn over properly anymore. So they don't grow anymore, but they don't die, but they just live and linger in the body, and they create and they leave inflammation. So the signals that it releases are the interleukin levels 1, 6, and 8. These are the ones that we notice in the skin that are heightened. And that we can tell that there's something, an inflammation going on. The problem, what it does is obviously it sends signals to why good communicative skin cells cannot communicate as properly as they should. So obviously, fibroblasts, muscle cells, and stem cells get affected by this too. And if we cannot clear this properly, this builds up, and over time, obviously, turns into worse situations when it comes to skin. How can we see skin inflammation in a skin? It can turn up as rosacea. We can have flare-ups. You can see widened vessels. You can see it in acne. Acne is more of a combination where there's inflammation and a hormonal imbalance. Pigmentation is as well a way of a form or a coping mechanism due to an inflammation response. What we see as well, and this is quite interesting, there's a heightened level of COX-2 in skin that is related to pigmentation. So pigmentation is still as well a form of inflammation, and obviously wrinkles too. Wrinkles from a young age. Sometimes you see a friend back from school and you know that you're both the same age, and one looks very old and the other one doesn't. Well, this can really happen just due to the inflammation in our body. So what is really the goal and what is something that we need to do is we need to create a metabolic resilience in the skin. How can we do it? It's not just a one-hit wonder. There's a lot of different ways what we need to do. We need to focus, first of all, on the sugar intake, because obviously the sugar will attach to your collagen and will glycate. So obviously, this is a very important part when it comes to metabolic resilience. How can we do that? We can do that through obviously a good diet, but as well building muscles. So building muscle will release or will lower the risk of insulin spikes in the body. And obviously that will translate in a better, healthier skin. Oxidative stress is a very important part. And oxidative stress, this is really your body not being able to cope with what is happening. How can we do that? Oxidative stress is putting antioxidants in our body. We can do that topical by using a good cream that has antioxidants, and as well by eating our nutrients that are prone in anti-inflammatory foods. For example, pomegranate, seeds, vegetables, fruits have a lot of antioxidants, so will enhance on that note as well. And then as well, we need to manage our external stressors. Stress is a very important part. You can tell on someone's facial expression or in how someone looks that external stress can really make someone age. UV, pollution, and other exposome factors are obviously a huge risk to that. So there's one good thing as well that helps with this, and this is obviously your mitochondrial functioning, because we have not had it about this. And this is where really in most skincare and in most skin routines, a lot of people overlook it. They look at collagen, they look at the fibroblasts, they look at cellular turnover. Cellular turnover, you can fix it by using chemical peelings or acids in home care. But what nobody is looking at is the mitochondria. So mitochondria is indeed the switch of our cells so that our own cells can create more energy. The more energy, the better the cell turnover will happen, the better the defense mechanism will happen, and obviously the better the communication of our cells will happen as well. There's multiple ways that we can enhance mitochondrial functioning in skin, and the other webinars have been talking about this too. But what are ways in skin to recharge mitochondria? There's multiples. First of all, what is clinically proven is to do it through photobiomodulation. This is a tough word to say, is that we can use red LED light in a certain wavelength, and that wavelength is 325 nanofrequency, and it needs to be a very powerful one. If we use that and put that close to our face, this can recharge our mitochondria. This in combination with products is better. The only biggest problem with this and with the lifestyle of a lot of people is, first of all, the nano frequency needs to be 325. One that is 450, one that is 120 will never recharge mitochondria. You have to be very consistent with it. And the machine needs to be powerful enough. So actually, if we think about it, not a lot of masks in home care will do the result what we want to see when it comes to recharging our mitochondria. So, and this is where the other game changer comes in. And obviously that we can do it through the supplements in a high purity form of epicatechin, which obviously Mitos is. And the biggest benefits on this part is obviously that we can work on the biogenesis, and as well, if we only can wear a mask on a certain part of our face, what about the rest of the organ? What about the other parts of our body that deserve a good mitochondrial functioning too? So obviously, this is where it can go both ways and that we can work integrative. And with that as well, there's a new topical serum as well with that same form and that same compound in there. So with the epicatechin, that we can recharge and that we can work on that mitochondrial functioning too. Because if we do, and if we charge on mitochondrial functioning, we can work on our turnover of our cells. Our cells turnover started to happening faster. And this is a very important part for the ladies and the men that say, hey, I don't want to invest in a very expensive serum. Well, luckily for you, your serum will actually do the work on the cells that you wanted it to do and not on the ones that died and do not have any function anymore. So obviously it will benefit the turnover and the functioning of your products. It will enhance the communication of how our cells communicate. So our cells will be way better to clear senescent cells, would be way better to say when there's needs of repair, and that it can protect the fibroblast, elastin, and the collagen. And obviously, mitochondrial health is very important, but that fuels both. So that works on the communication and on the turnover. And if we look at all these angles, at turnover, communication, and mitochondrial energy, then we're talking about skin longevity. So skin longevity is not about anti-aging anymore. It's not about camouflaging. It's about what can we do about the skin lifespan and the quality of it. So skin longevity in my terms is something that will look at turnover of your skin cells, how they communicate, how we can energize them. And in that way, we will show and see a beautiful skin that is well enough, strong enough to protect and to renew.